the LSE in 1916 after 3 years of studying in Columbia. So we have somebody who's following both in the academic but also literally in the footsteps of Ambedkar. He's currently a visiting fellow at the Asia Research Centre at the LSE in London. Professor Ramaiah has published extensively on issues pertaining to caste and caste-based discrimination and violence, including his 2007 book, Laws for Dalit Rights and Dignity, Experiences and Responses from Tamil Nadu. It's a great pleasure to welcome Professor Ramaiah to deliver this Ambedkar lecture.
I'll stand here to operate.
Yes, yeah. Or you can use this.
Just which one to go? Change
that's not what
change the slide.
Just use it.
Okay. Anyway, so that's fine. Welcome all of you. I know getting audience during this time is very difficult. I'm glad at least few of you have turned up. And I'd like to thank very sincerely Hugo for giving me this opportunity. A friend of mine has referred to his work and he asked me that I must get in touch with him, and I wrote to him and then immediately recognized me. I met you at TISS. And then I realized one of my students did his PhD with him. So this is how it got connected, and he was kind enough to invite me. Earlier, this was no idea about Ambedkar lectures, otherwise I would have taken a different line of preparation. It was supposed to speak purely on this, but Ambedkar has been working on this very issue for a long time. He had written extensively on this issue, so invariably some of his ideas will come as part of this presentation. Ambedkar has to be remembered in academic circle not because someone who has got a PhD from Columbia University, a PhD from London School of Economics, and also conferred a PhD from Columbia, and someone who has written 24 volumes, huge volumes, ranging from political science, history, sociology, anthropology, philosophy. But he was one who firmly believed soon after independence, when everybody was turning towards God for some guidance to lead a country, he was one who turned towards reasons. That it is only reason that can take the country forward, not for any other line of thinking. So definitely he is someone who we really need to remember. Coming to today's discussion, and throughout his writings he maintained one thing. Just go to the last part. He says, to conclude, when I am ambitious to advance a theory of caste, if it can be shown to be untenable, I shall be equally willing to give it up. Someone who has researched extensively on this issue, at the end of the essay he says, I will be willing to give it up, the theory that I am proposing. That also shows his academic honesty many times. Now coming to the issue of caste and today's topic. So probably, though the title says caste violence and caste violence, we will proceed caste violence, caste as a violence, and then move into caste violence. In India, caste is everything, and I know it is a sensitive issue, and especially talking an Indian audience is all the more sensitive. But talking about this in academic institution, it's not a problem, but in a common platform, it is many times a problem. Sometimes one gets a lot of abuses and get attacked also. But in academic institution like this, or even in India, TISS, we do talk on these things very overtly. For example, to say 1788 Edmund Burke, an Irish political theorist, philosopher, wrote, in that country, that is India, the laws of religion, the laws of land, the laws of honor are all united and consolidated in one, and bind man eternally to the rules of what is called his caste. So this is 1788. Then further, the system of caste and the system of untouchability form really the steel frame of Hindu society. When you say caste, definitely it comes to Hindu society. It is a product of Hinduism, it is the foundation of Hinduism. And our Max Weber says India is caste and caste is India. Nicola Dix, again a Columbia University professor, his recent books, Caste of Mind, says if we are to understand India properly, and by implications we are to understand India's the other core symbol Hinduism, we must understand caste, whether we admire or revile it. So he also gone on the same line. And then some of the Indian leaders, very strong advocates of Hinduism, taking a similar position. Swami Vivekananda, for example, 1893 says, our caste and our institutions have been necessary to protect us as a nation, and when this necessity for self-preservation will no more exist, they will die a natural death. But the older I grow, the better I seem to think of these time-honored institutions of India. So he clearly says that the older I grow, I begin to believe more on this institution. It is going to caste that 300 millions of people can find a piece of bread to eat it. It is imperfect institution, no doubt, but if it had not been for caste, you would have had no Sanskrit books to study. This caste made walls around which all sorts of invasions rolled and surged, but found it impossible to break through. That necessity has not gone yet. So caste remains, and that was Swami Vivekananda's positions in the 1890s. More recently, Mahatma Gandhi also going on a similar line. I am one of those who do not consider caste to be harmful institutions. In its origin, caste was a wholesome custom and promoted national well-being. In my opinion, the idea that interdining and intermarrying is necessary for national growth is a superstition borrowed from the West. So he was clearly that yes, caste is an important institution, but the interdining inter-caste marriage is a superstition we borrowed from the West. So we don't have to follow. Further, caste system is a natural order of the society, and every Hindu must follow the hereditary profession. And prohibition of intermarriage between people of different varnas was necessary for a rapid evolution of soul. There are a lot of contradiction in his own advocacy on this caste question, because although he is known as somebody who coined the term Harijans, worked among them for their emancipations, but they're really someone who was against untouchability but firmly believed in caste system. So, and this is how he justifies. Further, it is pertinent to ask what the Mandal, the Jat Path Thodak Mandal, believes if it rejects the Shastras. How can a Muslim remain one if he rejects the Quran? Or a Christian remain Christian if he rejects the Bible? If caste and varna are inconvertible terms, and if varna is an integral part of Shastra which defends Hinduism, I do not know how a person who rejects caste or a varna can call himself a Hindu. So to be a Hindu, you have no option but to follow caste system. Further you go, there are other people who taken a different view. That one admires the other people who say it is a curse. For example, caste has prevented Hindus from sinking, but it has also prevented from rising. Very interesting statement. While other societies have moved forward in the path of progress, Hindu society, by remaining stationary, has been left behind. And this stationariness is largely due to the institution of caste. Caste has preserved order, but has at the same time hindered progress. This is B.N. Bose, 1894, he wrote, and this I got to know in Columbia University Library. It was also a new thing. I never had an idea about someone Indian writing in this line. Then further, democracy and caste totally opposed. The one is based on equality, the other on inequality of birth. The one is actuated by the principle of social inclusion, the other by the principle of social exclusion. Democracy tries to break down the barriers of class, caste seeks to perpetuate them. Again, a very clear statements. Both in abolition of caste discrimination and in formation of national community, caste has become the subject of national shame. That's again Nicola Dux says. Further, as long as caste in India does exist, the Hindus will hardly intermarry or have any intercourse with the outsiders. And if Hindus migrate to other regions of earth, Indian caste would become a world problem. And it has become a world problem. And a few days back, the UK Parliament has passed the bill after 10 years of struggle that caste has to be banned. And so the prediction in those days, he wrote this in the 50s, which Ambedkar has quoted in his writings. And it's turned out to be true. And during my stay at Columbia, they are also same issue. It's coming. Since now that is going to be the Guru Ravidasi, which is one sect of Sikhism. They are taking up this issue very much because there is a discrimination within the Gurudwara. The fight is going on there. Caste devitalizes man. It is a progress. It is a process of sterilization. Education, wealth, labor are all necessary for every individual if he is to reach a free and full manhood. Mere education without wealth and labor is barren. Wealth without education is brutal. Each is necessary for everyone, and they are necessary for the growth of man. Man means women as well. That's what. Why this is brings? Because caste says education is not necessary for others except certain communities. So that is why he make this statement. You cannot build anything on the foundation of caste. You cannot build up a nation. You cannot build up a morality. Anything you build on the foundation of caste will crack and will never be a whole. So this Dr. Ambedkar had a lot of confrontation with Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, but Nehru has also gone on a similar line, saying in the context of society today, the caste system and much that goes with it are wholly incompatible, reactionary, restrictive, and barriers to progress. There can be no equality in status and opportunity within its framework, nor can there be political democracy. Between these two conceptions, conflict is inherent and only one of them can survive. I think this statement qualifies the title itself. The conflict is inherent. So violence is inherent. In the social organization of today, caste has no place left. If merit is the only criterion and opportunity is thrown open to everybody, then caste loses all its present day distinction, futures, and in fact ends. Caste has in the past not only led to the suppression of certain groups, but to separation of theoretical and scholastic learning from craftsmanship and a divergence of philosophy from actual life and its problems. It was an aristocratic approach based on traditions. This outlook has to change completely, for it is wholly opposed to modern conditions and democratic ideal, Nehru further says. Okay, now I'm not going to spend time in defining caste, you are all expert on that. Coming to the point directly. How castes can be viewed as an institution of violence? All these statements that given so far I read out clearly indicates that it is an institution of violence, and there the togetherness and oneness, all those things is impossible. When I say because caste, there is not one, it's not a physical violence, it is a multiple form of violence. And they are many times cumulative in nature. So one contributes to the other kinds of violence, and then at the end of the day, it can lead to even murder, killing, rape, all kinds of things. Caste violence as a product of caste rules. Caste rules as a product of religion. Can a Hindu be a Hindu without subscribing to caste rules? In the Hindu, in the Shastras. This is the statement we have already said, that Mahatma Gandhi says you can't be Hindu unless you subscribe to caste. What the religious heads preach even today talks about hierarchy and discrimination. These many times you say no, these are old archaic things. What is written as caste rules, Manu, but it is not past. It is an everyday reality in rural India. Because people do not consider caste rules as something in the past, because they think it is part of their religions and they do practice it. I'll just go and make one statement, come back here. I think it is missing. I have one small clip I want to show you. It's there in the pen? Yes. How do I go to the folders here? Okay, I got it, yeah. Oh, that does not seem to be here, sorry. Anyway, I think I have forgot to copy. I thought it was there, so What is this? Sorry. I had copied one, I don't know where it is.
In the folder.
In the folder, I think it's there.
It is there? How do I go back
So
to?
if you go down to the bottom to computer.
Here?
To there. Or here. Then in there. In the Edinburgh final. So there.
Yeah. No?
So
What is it? Should I open?
Yes. Yeah. Only may not. Oh.
No? Nothing is coming? I did copy, so I don't know what happened.
Open with, maybe.
So if you right click on it,
Right click and open with.
open.
Scan forward or something? Open?
Try open it.
Open for
Nothing.
Okay.
select program.
No. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's a very interesting clip, so that is what I wanted to show. Unfortunately, it is not there. Anyway, where are we? Go back. Okay. It basically is a priest, the head priest, who claims that caste is something that you can't negate. That is what that is the Veda, and the whole world is revolving according to that Veda's prescription. You don't try to change it. You don't try to change. And he says, I am Kattarvadi Hindu Brahman. Main jaat baat ka mangta hu. Meaning that I am a staunch Brahmin. I believe in caste system. I don't believe in your constitution. It's a clear statement he is making. And he is a priest at the top level. Millions of people go bow down before him, wait for his blessing. So someone at that level making a statement, I am a Kattarvadi Hindu Brahmin, a staunch Brahmin. I don't believe in your constitutional rules. I believe in caste rules. That's all. So to say that these caste rules are archaic and old, that's what many academicians claim. More interestingly, many of them claim caste is a colonial construct. It is their creation. Don't blame us. Even now there are many, I don't want to name them. It's a very old cliche. Everyone says caste is a colonial construct, whereas caste is a product of Hinduism, is part of Hinduism, it's a core symbol of Hinduism, which is not a colonial construct, which is a century old. So, but this is how it is being often argued. So, okay. So it is a multiple form of violence that perpetrates. Right to use one's own mind, and the first kind of violence. Right to use one's own mind is violated. In the caste structure, so being founded on the religious ideal, caste system takes away the individual's right to think on his or her own. Freedom of mind is taken away. Making God responsible for everything, good or bad. It is not our fault. God has created, like the priest said, God has created, and very interestingly, there's a lot to do with the gender issue. Women have been created like this. So the women and Shudras, there have been a number of utterances in the scriptures that women and Shudras, the drum and animals, will work only when you beat them. You beat the drum, you get the sound. So similarly, you beat a woman, then only she will work. You beat the Shudra, only they will work. So it is justified, glorified violence against communities and gender. So it is very much there. And here, I think this is applicable almost all religions. Every religion says, you have nothing in your hand. Put everything to God. God will solve. Whether Christianity or Hinduism or any other Islam, except Buddhism. Every religion says, surrender before God. You have nothing else. You can't do anything. It's all destined. So that way the first statement goes. But in what is the problem with the Hinduism and particularly caste system is, it is not that everybody, there is a God, before him you have to surrender. But in Hindu caste system, there is a Brahmin, through whom only you can approach God. There is no direct, there is no visa going there directly. You have to go through this man, this so-called priest. And he says, and the scripture says, he is a living God, God on the earth. And he says, I will think for you. According to caste system, there is a thinking caste, there is a doing caste. One set of caste people will think and the rest will follow. That by making a statement like this, you are further qualifying that although it is universal that all over the world that everybody has to surrender before God, he says, you surrender before me, and certain section will think for you. You don't think. So that is an additional thing here. Then what is the next violence? The scripture says, other than the Brahmin, Kshatriya, education should not be given to the Shudras. And the Shudras and the Ati Shudras, so called, they constitute over 80% population. 75 to 80% population, Indian population. Sorry. And this education should not be given there. And plus, all women have no right to education. I am talking about scriptures, not the constitutions. The scripture says women and all men and women within this community should not be given education, which is again a violence. Then if somebody violates these things, then it is justified committing violence against them. So there is a physical violence. So you have and then the economic violence. The economic violence, but they should have no right to wealth. They have to serve the others. And the scripture says the Shudras are born to be a slave of others. So you have no right to wealth. Though you may be capable of accumulating wealth, you are not supposed to accumulate wealth. And if you do, you are likely to be punished. And if you are not punished, the person who is supposed to be punished, not punished, he will not go to heaven. It's all linked that way. So the violence, M.N. Srinivas himself says, while some sections of scheduled caste opt for Sanskritization in order to move up, others emphasize their Dalit identity and adopt a confrontationist attitude towards the higher caste and the society as a whole. Most interestingly, the Sanskritization of the SCs embodies a strong element of protest against the high caste. We dare you, stop us emulating you, seems to be the spirit underlying the emulations. In other words, both Sanskritization and emulation challenge the position of authority of this. There is one more, I think, what I wanted to give that seems missing, where he says, with the more and more people, the Shudras and the Shudras asserting their rights, the conflict is going to be inevitable, and that will be all over the country. And that's what he's giving a caution there. So you're talking about psychological violence, physical violence, economic violence, and the fear about the future. Hugo has been writing on the recent violence. If you go to Tamil Nadu, because that is the village I come from, and the last 20 years I'm in Maharashtra, and I know what is the conditions going on there. You, as a citizen, you have no right to walk in your own village. You have a separate road. You have to take around the village and to reach your huts. And if you want to walk the the main street, you have to take your footwear in the hands. So it is an insult for an upper caste Dalit walking with the footwear. Irrespective of what is the status condition of his feet, he is not supposed to wear sandals. This is what the rural situations. I have a number of slides basically talking about what that scripture says about it. A few things I did because we may be running short of time. One born, meaning the so-called lower caste, who insults the twice born with the gross invectives ought to have his tongue slit, or he sprang from the lowest part of the Brahma. So according to the Hindu scriptures, the caste is a creation of the creator god Brahma, and he created the Brahmins from his mouth, the Kshatriya, the below, from the arms, and the Vaishya from his thighs, and the Shudra from the feet. Most interesting story is about the creation of the scheduled caste, the Dalits, untouchables. What is the articulation given, the explanation given? Actually, interestingly, the scripture does not say anything about the so-called untouchables, and that is why they are avarnas, means outside the varna system. They are not part of the caste system. But here he says how about 15-16% population. Where are they? What is their location? What is their origin? Interesting story they came out with. They are the illegitimate children born to Shudra men and Brahmin women. This is the theory they have created. Just for our own argument's sake. What is the population of Shudra? Even according to the recent census, around 52%. What is the population of a Brahmin? About 5%. If we have to accept this theoretically, to produce 15-16% scheduled caste population, that means 50% men belonging to Shudra had a sexual relation with the 5% Brahmin women. You have to accept that logic. That is how the theory is built. And Ambedkar has, this is a craziness. How it is a violation of sexual rights of the women. So, I mean, this untenable, even theoretically one cannot conceive, that has become the scripture, and that is how it's being, and there are people to follow, accordingly violence takes place. For example, just to quote a few, if he mentioned their names and classes with continually, an iron style 10 fingers long shall be thrust red into his mouth. That means the so-called lower caste, which includes women, the Shudras and women, if they do anything, this is the punishment prescribed in the Holy Scriptures. Should he, through pride, give instruction to priests concerning their duty, then let the king order some hot oil to be dropped into his mouth and ear. So you have no right to tell what they should be doing. You mind your business. With the whatever member the low-born man shall assault or hurt the superior, even that member of his must be slit or cut more or less proportion to the injury. I mean, it's very too much. A man of the lowest class who shall insolemnly place himself on the same seat with one of the highest shall either be banished with a mark on his hinder parts, or the king shall cause a gash to be made on his buttock. This particular preaching, it is practiced even today in the village. If anybody who violates that, in the tea stalls you will find number of shops who go will have a lot of experience. There are tea stalls in the rural areas where there are separate glasses kept. Scheduled caste going there, either you carry your own glass or there is a separate glass kept there which you have to clean and show. And the shopkeeper we will pour it from a distance, because even touching glass is a pollution. That is their fear. That is the kind of a status. And then there are benches which is for the, again, upper caste. So if the Dalit going and take the seat, they are lynched, they are beaten. Of course, over years, the magnitude has come down, but there are pockets where the more assertion, more violence. In Tamil Nadu cases, Maharashtrian cases, number of cases happening here. The assertion is ultimately lead to brutal violence. So I don't want to read this because it goes on. There are number of things. See here, for example, let a prince banish men of the 3 lower classes if they give false evidence, having first levied the fine, but a Brahmin let him only banish. So there is a concession given to certain caste with regard to punishment as well. A soldier defaming a priest shall be fined 100 panas, meaning rupees you can say. A merchant thus offending on 150 or 200, but for such an offence a mechanic or a survival man shall be shipped. He will be sent out from there. There is no question of punishment, I mean fine and taking. A priest shall be fined 50 if he slander a soldier, 25 if a merchant, and a 12 if he slander a man of a servile class. So the violence is justified because as the punishment goes down, the fine is going down, that decides what is the status. One occupation only the Lord has prescribed to the Shudras to serve meekly the all other 3 castes. So that is the only occupation. You have to serve the other community, and that too meekly you have to serve. There is no question of asking right, nothing. If a Shudra, unable to subsist by serving a Brahmin, seeks a livelihood, he may serve Kshatriyas, or he may also seek to maintain himself by attending a wealthy Vaishya who is below the caste order. God created Shudra to be the slaves of all. I am reading all this. Wherever I put page number, that is a book, Caste and Race in India, G.S. Gure, very famous book. And where I put these, the section number, that is a translation by Ambedkar. So, the dwelling of the Chandala Savapaka shall be outside the village. You have every village, I mean, Srinivas himself has noted, every village has an adjacent village where only these communities live there. And there is a lot of frictions between these two. And the scriptures say they should be kept out. The Shudras dress, the garments should be the garments of the dead. Their food from the broken dishes, block iron shall be. Their ornaments, block iron shall be their ornaments, and they must always wander from place to place. The twice born must allot him Shudra out of their own family property a suitable maintenance after considering his ability, his industry, and number of those whom he is bound to support. Now see the last one. No collection of wealth must be made by a Shudra even though he be able to do it. For a Shudra who has acquired wealth gives pain to a Brahmin. The Shudra, who are the Shudras? The Shudras are today's backward caste. They are nothing to do with the Dalits. All these scriptures written about Shudras. They are supposed the fourth layer of the Varna order. Like that, the number of things goes on, and I don't want to spend time because just one thing. If the Shudra intentionally listens for committing the memory of Veda, then his ears should be filled with molten lead or lead. And if he utters the Veda, then his tongue should be cut off. If he has mastered the Veda, his body should be cut into pieces. Now this is about education, right to education. Shudra is denied. Shudra and women are denied right to education. And if they do, if you remember, if you utter, and this is the punishment prescribed. Women have no business with the text of Vedas. They are completely denied right to education. The twice born man who has improperly divulged the Vedas, somehow you get the knowledge, that is the Shudras and the women, atones for his offense. He subsists on a year of barley. I mean, if any Shudra or a woman has happened to master this, then you have to undergo punishment. You have to leave only barley and stay outside and kind of a thing. He who acquires knowledge of the Veda without the assent of his predecessor incurs the guilt of stealing the scripture and shall sink to the region of torment. And then this is one side. You have other, I just put only one slide. The Brahmins declared to be the gods on earth. So you have one set of rules condemning a major section. You have other set of rules which says glorifying the Brahmin sections, the god on the earth. The gods are invisible deities, the Brahmins are visible deities. The Brahmins sustain the world. I mean, this is what it goes on. Brahmin is entitled to whatever exists in the earth. In fact, the whole world is his property and others live on his charity. The property of Brahmins was exempt from royal claim. No tax can be levied against his property. If a Brahmin who followed his lawful occupation found a treasure, he had not to hand it over to the king. You can keep it there. And king has no right to claim it. But the reverse, yes, you will be punished. Never shall the king slay a Brahmin, though convicted of all possible crimes. Let him banish the offender from his realm, but with all his property secure and his body unhurt. So there is a punishment also, a discriminatory punishment. And such a system, and Gandhi says, caste system is a natural order of the society and every Hindu must follow the hereditary profession and prohibition of the same thing. I don't want, because it may give a different kind of impressions. So this is, you have a scriptures and what is being practiced, and globally we have certain rules like this. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights declares all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reasons and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. The spirit of Indian Constitution is very much in tune with these universal ideals, with its commitment to secure all citizens liberty, equality, fraternity. So the caste prescribes one set of rules and Constitution talks about certain ideals, which is very much aligned with the global ideals. But in reality, what according to the principles of caste system, all human beings are not born free. And that way even globally can say they are not born free. All human beings are not equal in dignity and rights. All human beings are not endowed with reasons and conscience and therefore should not act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. I mean, that is the position of caste. Anyway, now there's been such a contradiction between caste and the constitution norms. The violence is inevitable. So even after 60 years of independence, there are people who become IAS officers from this very community. There are people who rose to very high positions, even to the level of president. But these are exceptions, and many times they're treated as like a specimen. Okay, things have improved. But if you go into the rural areas, it is still pathetic. A study recently completed, which says a recent All India study has concluded that untouchability is practiced in one form or another in about 80% of the villages, and it is most extensive in the private and religious spheres, and at least present in public and political sphere. In 1 out of 10 villages, Dalits are still not allowed to wear knee clothes, sunglasses, or footwears, or to use umbrellas and ride bicycles. This is 2006 study, All India study. This was a major study done by Ghanshyam Shah. Many of you must be aware of his work on social movement. This is the All India report says. And there are every day, almost I'm connecting number of networks, every day I get to read number of incidents of violence. And these violence are sometimes very inhuman, like, like forcing somebody to eat, consume excreta, forcing somebody to drink urine, parading the women naked, raping a mother before a child, or a daughter before the parents. These kind of things are happening in the rural areas. And what is the crime they committed? They asserted their rights. Or the children started going to the school. And they defied from the traditional occupation. We will not do the drumming. We will not do these things. And the outcome is this. And this is becoming more and more, because as they assert, and these are some of the incidents of this kind I have quoted here. And again, for positive reasons, I am quickly moving. Even states like Tamil Nadu, which has progressed in many ways, there are many villages where Dalits live under perpetual terror. They have no right to walk through the main street of their own villages. Separate tumbler system is still practiced in many tea stalls, and Dalits cannot use footwears in and around their villages. In some villages, Dalits wearing clean clothes is also not tolerated. Many a times, caste humiliation results in death. And some of them, they go and commit suicide. Worst is, in educational institutions, there have been suicides. In major universities, there are suicide by the students because caste humiliations. I am sure those working on this will have a lot of ideas. I have some data here, a report. I have till 2009. This is a recent paper I wrote. As per this is a government report. Reported cases registered by the police. There are many cases which are reported, never registered. This is only registered cases and only reported cases. Many cases do not go to the police, and those cases going to police do not get registered. These are only those reported and registered cases. So 50% go unregistered. So if you look at, you have these 10 usually rape, murder, kidnap, dacoity, robbery, arson, hurt, and there are special laws under which these cases are, and other cases. So in 1981, the number of murders, meaning the Dalits being killed by the non-Dalits, is 493. In 2009, it is 624. And like that, there is a murder. If you see rape, 604 rapes, reported rapes, 81. And you have 2009, 1,346 rapes. And in 2011 data is showing further. It is the same trend is going on. I mean, it's a huge data. I mean, change. So with all protective laws, all measures, our education, liberal-minded, everything, despite this is the situation I am giving there. So coming to the total figure, in 1981, the total is about 14,318 cases, total cases, which has increased to 33,594 in 2009. Rather than coming down, it is going up. One reason could be that in 1981, not many cases were reported. Now they are getting reported, so probably that could be one reason one can think of. It's not that the 1981 situation, 2009 situations are different, because this is probably after globalization, there are many medias have entered, and they are wherever you find they report it. So probably many cases get reported of media pressure, so police do take action. And you have a state-wise data I've given up to 2009. You'll find in Andhra Pradesh is 13 point overall of the 100%. If you look at total number of incidents of crimes in India, the highest percentage you see in Uttar Pradesh, 22.4% of the total number of crimes in India shared by Uttar Pradesh, followed by Rajasthan 14.8, and you have Andhra Pradesh 13.4, and then you have Bihar. So the maximum incidents of crimes you seem to see there in Uttar Pradesh in 2009, but if you see in 2003, the maximum is from Rajasthan, followed by Andhra Pradesh, and then you have Uttar Pradesh is the third position in 2003. In a few years, UP has gone up. There have been a lot of criticism on this, that despite a Dalit chief minister, there is crimes against Dalit women happening here, more atrocities. What is he doing? There's a lot of criticism against her, and probably one of the reasons he also lost power. But the data, people have not looked at properly in a logical way, and they give a wrong propaganda, in my opinion. These are about state-wise incidents of contribution of rape across states in India. This is data exclusively on rape. So you'll find, again, Uttar Pradesh leading, followed by Madhya Pradesh. It's an equally big number, 23 and 20. First is Madhya Pradesh, second is Uttar Pradesh. It goes on, very high. And this is with regard to murder case. Again, on this UP stands very high, number one. 37% murder of the whole country is shared by UP. But then, if you this is the highest even during 2004. Data is a huge. This is about pending IPs. Let us not focus on this. Conviction rate. Now, here is the crux of the matter as to what's happening in each state. The moment you see the large number of incidents of rape and murder in Uttar Pradesh, general impression is that Uttar Pradesh is not doing well. Then if you look at the conviction rate, ultimately when somebody comes and registers a case, what police does? What happens to the case? That is what performance of the state. If you look at that conviction rate, you will find, if you go to the next state, you come here, in conviction rate, Uttar Pradesh stands the highest. That means it is only this particular state, when the moment a case is reported, it is registered, is gone into logical end, and ultimately ended in conviction, meaning those committed crimes against them have been punished. And it is only in Uttar Pradesh, not in any other state. So the one, and another interesting dimension of the Uttar Pradesh is that you have IPC cases, meaning any other crime get registered under IPC, and any special crime like commit crimes against SC/ST get registered under the special laws. So here is the one state you will find more or less the same. It is 53% conviction rate, and special cases 54% IPC cases. So this is one state which has looked at both the kind of crimes on equal footing with equal importance. But if you come down further, special cases, if you get the next state, Uttarakhand, 70% conviction in IPC cases, but it is 46. And as you come down, you see in Puducherry, 90.2% conviction rate in IPC case, there is 0% when it comes to special cases. So it is how the state views, so which means that certain states have taken equal importance in punishing whoever is committing crimes against anybody else. But certain states ignore crimes against SC/ST as a non-issue, and they focus only on IPC cases. So one reason why UP stands up the very highest in terms of incidents of crime is also because that the police were scared of not registering the case. They did register the case, and it ultimately ended in conviction. So in my opinion, UP performance is immense, extremely good according to my performance. And again, why another possibility, it's that why there is high incidence of crime, people must be asserting their right. I know it from Tamil Nadu, there are certain pockets, there is no crimes reported, because those areas, they will never open their mouth. If you don't open their mouths, follow your traditional role, there is no violence. But if you assert your rights, there is violence. So Uttar Pradesh, one state happened to be, people began to realize their power. Oh, my person is as a chief minister, let me assert. So they asserted more crimes, but then the result is they have been punished. And probably that could be one of the important reasons why you see last. Okay, so now just one or two slides, I'll stop it here. What do you do with the crimes? This is happening, and there is a clear message. As long as there is caste, there is conflict is inevitable. What do you do? There are different people have given different explanations. The Indian Marxists generally argue the only way to end caste class, we should come together as a class. We should come together as a class. Which, because Marx said you have nothing to lose except your chain. But in caste, Ambedkar said, you have so many things to lose, so you will never come together as one class. Because if you tell an upper caste, you leave everything, come and join with me, he will not come. That's I hold on to my position. So that is why he has used some words like Hindu bourgeois and Hindu proletariat. Some of the new coined terms he has used, Hindu proletariat, Hindu bourgeois, meaning it's qualitatively different from the Marxian bourgeois and proletariat class. So you have everything to lose, so you will not come together. So they do not come together. I am not underestimating the commitment of the Marxists in India, but many times, maybe as an individual it may be different, but as you go to the village areas, you end up in nobody wants to come together. The poor, Brahmin poor and Dalit poor will never come together as one class. How much we dream for it, and that's what happening. And Gandhian and nationalists argue that education to end discrimination and caste exploitation, as education grow, things will be all right, you keep quiet, you relax. And then further he says, be patient, they will be rewarded in the next birth. And that is Gandhian position. He has written very clearly, you be patient, next birth there is an incentive, you may be born again as a Brahmin, you can do all kinds of things. And so he pacifies people, say be patient. And Ambedkar says, caste as the cause of poverty, class cannot be a caste. Caste is an enclosed class. Unlike the class system, in caste system, all caste and communities will not unite, as each caste has something to lose. So that is how. So there are issues of this kind. So the constitutional means, we have Article 17 abolishes untouchability. We have a issue of reservation. We have special laws to protect them. All and special commission, national, state commissions, everything is there. But even then, nothing works. Why this happens? Number one, the upper caste have vested interest in caste. They don't want to give up caste. If nothing is there, at least I have a caste as my status symbol. So it goes on. And then division among Dalits on sub-caste basis. So Dalit, when you say it is not one caste, there are sub-castes. They also believe in caste system. Because when you have nothing, you always fall back to some institution to bring status. So you will find a hierarchy of caste among scheduled caste. So the upper caste, lower caste take pride that I am an upper caste. And these fellows also commit crimes. Sometimes they also commit untouchability, discrimination. These things are a reality today. And they don't intermarry. Because you have imbibed the caste notion so much that even Dalits coming together is my problem. I mean, whether it is Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or any place, and there are issues. And then the relative improvement in economic, political, and bureaucratic power. That also become a potential reason for crimes. Numerically minority in villages. You have, my PhD was on this issue. So they are so small in number, you can't come together as a large number to counter any violence. So that's also not possible. Most of them are landless and they depend mostly on the caste who the very caste that commit crimes. Interestingly, today, most of the crimes committed against the scheduled caste, not by the Brahmins, but by the so-called backward caste. This is a kind of an ego, okay. To be above somebody, you have to see there is somebody below you. And it is that mindset that is responsible for lots of crimes happening. Seeking protection under the special laws is tiresome and frustrating because you have to bribe the police and you have to face a lot of threat afterwards. So it is not easy thing that law is there, you will get protection. It's not possible. And then delayed judgment, further encouraging the caste induced accused. If you file a case today, we don't know how many years it would take for a judgment. So it goes on. Caste prejudices among the police and judiciary is rampant. State romanticism of Indian villages are the conflict-free villages. Again, that also puts a lot of things. I'll just this one statement, I'll stop it. So far in academics, we heard of pedagogy of the oppressed. We have not talked about pedagogy of the oppressors. And I have been writing on this issue of pedagogy of the oppressors, whether it is gender issue or a caste issue or a communalism issue. I strongly believe, I have written something, you have to focus on the perpetrators. Expecting a victim to rise above, to fight against a powerful force, it's morally unethical in my opinion. So we need to really see how the oppressor can be educated because one doesn't know why he's doing it. It's a stupid kind of a pride, whether it's caste or gender. The violence at family level, instead rather focusing on women, that's fine, you have to do it. But you have to focus on the husband. If you have to bring protection to the wife or women, you have to focus on the men. I mean, that's what I firmly believe. So on even caste questions, you have to focus on the upper caste rather than giving a special law, some police protection and gun. These are all nonsense. You get go, but most importantly, you have to focus on the oppressor rather than the victims. Since it is also an occasion of Ambedkar's lectures, he told, so I also say that at the end of the whole struggle, he said the Hindus will never give up caste because it is political economy rooted, so he will not give up caste. And it is based on religion. The religion says caste is not bad. So he moved into conversion. So he moved into religion which says there is no God, no soul, you have to manage your own affair. So he moved into Buddhism. And then another thing, he also talked about separate settlement. Again, that ran into a lot of controversy. That as long as you are in a minority in a village, you will never be able to ensure protection. So you move into an area and settle in a large number so that you will be able to protect yourself. Without even police protection, you will be able to protect it. But you must have a critical mass in a particular locality. So he also thought about separate settlement, not a separate state or a separate nation, but a separate settlement within a state. That's what his suggestions. And then, of course, all that role he played in as a drafting chairman of the Indian constitutions and the number of protective and development measures that he brought in to support SC, ST, minorities, women, youth, and I would also say the upper caste industrialists. There is also provision there to protect the upper caste interest. The general notion only has brought protection to the lower caste. No, it is not. It's everybody has been protected under the constitution. That is why the Tatas and Birlas could come up. Such an extent. If they were allowed to, if the MNC was allowed at that time to compete with the Tatas and Birlas, they would have collapsed. So under foreign policy, again with the support from the constitution, protection was given to the private sector, the elite Indians, and because of they could thrive. So it is a very reductionist approach to tell that constitution protected only certain communities. I mean, everyone was protected. With that, I will stop and I will take some few questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks very much for a wide-ranging and very topical talk. Any questions? Okay, while people are gathering their thoughts, and I had lots of questions, as you might expect. And just on that last point you were making, also this notion of caste as a curse.
Yeah.
Just last week in Business Line, in the Hindu, there was this argument that actually caste is essential to economic development in India. Caste functions like a network. It can be a boon as well as a curse. What would you say?
Ideally, because they are saying caste is essential today because you are caught. You are caught. It is like the gender, if you take it. You have to say women as women to make a claim. You have to say the physically challenged as a physically challenged to make a claim. But suppose if there is no such thing, then you can throw away these things. But today, even they want to throw away, the society does not want. So then you have to work on it. Okay, you want to throw me out? Okay, let me make a claim out of that. It's possible that after some time, this reverse can take place. Caste may remain, but Dalit may become upper caste, the Brahmin may become a lower caste. This can happen. This can happen. If these things go on in the same way, this can happen. Because you also have a Dalit millionaire. As a concept has become a reality, and there are industrialists among them. They are coming up. I met one lady in Maharashtra. There's a lady who had a lot of issues. She bought a company which was completely shut down, and she rose to a level. She's a millionaire. A Dalit, a woman, rose to a level of millionaire. I mean, so these are role models are there. So it's possible. And you have Indians once colonized, having industries in UK. So these changes are possible. So ideally speaking, though titles are not good, but then when that is fixed and nobody want to give up that, you have no option but to essentialize it. Yeah. Yes, please.
Just taking taking on from Hugo's question, and you answer part of this in your question, in your answer, is the whole emancipatory potential of these identities,
which.
So, I mean, I'm thinking of a lot of movements where people have taken up, such as the Black movement, where Black becomes a term for power, and so in that sense, it is, and I'm not justifying the caste system at all, but I'm saying that within that, there is that scope of agency as well, where you can take that on and then use that as your...
See, I mean, I've said the same thing, because when that identity is fixed, and it's not just identity, it is stigmatized identity. It's not, it may not be so much, there are divisions among Brahmins, but they are just divisions, but they are not stigmatizing so much. But here you have pitched each category against one another, a bipolar kind of a situation. I mean, I'll go back to the same answer. Ideally speaking, no. We become a citizens. Ideally, we all should become a citizens. But we don't want to become a citizen. We want to confine to our own caste. Because, and that's what Ambedkar says, we have a vested interest in caste, because I have something to benefit. As somebody, even you'll find, even the poorest man say, I'm a Garib Brahman. He will not say, I'm a poor, but say, I'm a Garib Brahman. So I'm a poor Brahmin. The Brahmin title comes. Now, if at all someone wants to give up, who has to give up? That is a question. Who has to give up that question? Because the one at the lower, if you give up, you will not give up. If the Dalit wants to give up, the non-Dalits will not give up. That idea. Where are you from? Okay, you are so and so. You are from this village. Are you related to so and so? He will probe and probe till he finds what his caste is. So when they want to give up, the other caste will not want to give up that approach. So what do you do? So whose politics, whose identity we are questioning? I mean, even when Gandhi was asked, what is your opinion? It is fact, end of his life, he said, caste is a problem. And then he said, what is the solution? We should go back to that fourfold Varna system. He also did not say, no, you throw it. So you have to go back to fourfold Varna system. So, I mean, given the conditions, identity is something you can't get away with it. And what is wrong in identity? It is like ABCD. It's just saying ABCD. If you say that D is bad, then A, it's our understanding. A stage may come, the D may say the reverse. And some of the institutions I have seen, I don't know whether it's good or bad, bluntly, openly people say, oh, you are very Brahminical. Like earlier they used to say you are like a Bhangi. Now you are very Brahminical. Academic institution in a formal gathering, I know Tata Institute I am talking about, you are very Brahminical in your approach. They say. So it is almost like a kind of a stigma. This approach itself is getting stigmatized. It's possible that over a period of time you may say, throw that all those things. You become a human being, then you being a Brahmin later on. So it may come live, we hope.
Is calling this, I mean, when you say institutions or a certain line of thinking, when people say it's very Brahminical approach, is it a stigma or it's just a classification of a certain process of thought?
Definitely. Otherwise, Brahminical is an ideology, if you say. Marxism is an ideology. But it is Brahminical. It goes that way. There is a stigma, there is a hatred towards that.
It's not necessarily derogatory, it's only classifying that this is a certain line of approach that one takes to analyzing something.
It's like patriarchy. If you say patriarchy, it is a derogatory or it is a line of thinking. Whichever you way.
Yeah, it's like how
you can say it that way. If you say, ultimately you have to pin down to position. It is a line of thinking, but the right wing is also thing, left wing is also thing. But they also have a set of ideology and notions and they mean something.
Okay, I mean that's one part. The other part, when you talk so much in terms of, the kind of violence and so much of oppression as far as these castes are concerned. What about the other side in terms of the affirmative action, the reservation, and where is that, or how much has that changed the entire picture?
See, it has definitely changed because all these things are getting recorded, I would attribute to those kind of an affirmative actions. Otherwise, even the assertion would not take place, and the assertion would not take place, those crimes would not take place, and we may be living in that fool's paradise that everything is fine. But actually, this is definitely a contribution from the affirmative actions. It goes on. I mean, there are quite many people have changed, but the vast majority in rural areas who have nothing to do with the affirmative action, they have no knowledge about affirmative action, their murder and rape is taking place. Neither the upper caste nor the lower caste are aware of affirmative actions, but they are aware of the caste rules. And
what does one have to say about, a particular, for example, I don't study anthropology, sociology, caste system or whatever, But from what you say, what would you say about a certain section, maybe of one caste, of one village, maybe even a family related, extended family, having them there, moved on to the urban areas, on account
or they should be given reservation.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying on account of affirmative action, they have done well. Are there no spillover implications or effects of those on their closely related, extended family related?
Absolutely, there is so much of spillover.
What is the kind of picture that one would see emerging out of that kind of spillovers?
See,
what is a positive in this entire thing? Is there anything at all in India that's positive about this, or is it all oppression and violence as far as caste system is concerned?
See, there are a number of villages. If one person educated and become an officer, he becomes a role model. Everybody points out to him, oh, his son has become so and so. Everybody sends their children to school, and it goes on. And the number of educated keep increasing, and everybody is competing, and it's going on very well. So, see, it's all, if you look at any issue in isolation, it's a problem. That is why even Ambedkar said, you may have separate settlement. Villages in Maharashtra, this massive massacre took place where the mother and the daughter were raped and murdered, butchered. Why? Because there were 3 or 5 families in a village which is dominated by the Marathas, the backward caste. The mistake they made, the children started going to school and they bought a land. And Madhya Pradesh, and mind you, there is one girl who completed a schooling in a high score and she got admission at the medical college. She went riding a bicycle. This could not be tolerated and she was murdered, and the way they, brutalized her, it's amazing. Definitely reservation policy has spillover, positive and negative. The positive point, there are a number of people following the same line, okay, we should also get educated. And the negative thing is, seeing their progress others could not tolerate, they target them. And so much so, there are many families have left their village. It's a hell with your village system. They moved into urban areas. And Ambedkar also talked about that. Go away from the village, come to cities. Whatever be the hardship, but at least you will have a relatively better life. There are discrimination issues in city, but they are far better than the rural areas.
Thank you for your talk, though I do feel it portrays one side of the picture, and I know it's because of time constraints. In one of your slides, you mentioned that the oppressed, not the oppressed, but the oppressor should be educated. I don't know whether you should say they should be educated. I know you say pedagogy, because most of our lawmakers are educated. They know what they're doing, what's happening is not correct. Do you think it should be education, or should we take action?
Okay, lovely.
Education is there.
Lovely.
Saying all the people who are sitting are not educated.
Lovely. Thank you. It was a very interesting question. That was the questions again asked, and Ambedkar has answered. I have that slides also, where he says, in India, most of the upper castes are educated. They are highly educated. If that is the case, they should not be indulging in any discrimination. And most of the saints are highly educated. They are the people who propagate. Mahatma Gandhi is uneducated. Why he has to stick on to this? That is why you have a vested interest. One doesn't want to give up. You may talk in public place, we have to work on it, but inside you don't want to give up. You take pride over your own caste. So when that is there, then action should be taken. Again, who will take action? I'm coming to you. Who will take action? Who are the custodian of law and judiciary? Again, the same group is there. And they don't want to take action. There have been a number of incidents where Dalits went to the police, their counter cases have been filed. Yesterday also I received one mail. When you go to police, the fellow who goes there with a complaint, he was terrorized by the police and counter cases filed. And then he calls the same accused, somebody has come here to complain against you, and by the time he goes back, he is murdered again. So action, who will take action? And that is why again Ambedkar says you must get a political power in your hands. So it is mere education, it is only fooling people, but that does not mean you should not do it, because the popular notion is that victim should be educated. He should know the law, how to use the law. It's what will you do? Gail Amwit has written one of the articles that it is not your awareness that is a problem, it is the awareness of the other members about the loopholes of the law which is a problem. It is not how much you know about the law that you can make use of it, but how much is a loophole the other person know, that makes the law irrelevant, redundant, ineffective. So I fully, action has to be taken, but so there is nobody willing to take action. That is why the real change, ultimately, both should go simultaneously. I am sure there may be, the younger generation, for example, they may not be holding on to caste. Probably somebody who moved 2 generations here to UK, they may not. No, but what will you do? Maybe it will have a positive impact in such people. So we hope. So I am saying that both should go. And then that brings the issue of relevance, of reservation. That when there is a violence against women, and I sincerely wish that women representatives should be there. I know there are more sensitized and educated men will be there, no problem. As a man, we can justify, no, we are equally good. We don't want to be only men there. But you must have women there in the women's commissions. We know there may be some sensitized men also. But when there are women, why do you want men there? It is the same logic applies. But the reservation, there must be a people at the judiciary also. There must be people at the judiciary, there should be people at the police. Everywhere you must have your own people because you don't trust the other person. And all these 60 years of what's happening is giving enough evidence that they are not trustworthy people. There are exceptions, but mostly, please.
Can I have a follow-up question slightly on a different topic? You speak about conversion.
Yeah.
I feel the caste is extremely pervasive in India, like for example Christianity.
Yeah.
A lot of, if you see Dalits do convert to Christianity to get away from the stigma and the untouchability. But if you see, caste has actually taken over Christianity in India. Like for example, the burial grounds in Tamil Nadu. A Dalit who converts to Christianity, a Brahmin who converts to Christianity will not have the same burial ground. Any thoughts on that? Why is it that you convert and then you follow the same rules? It's just that yes, you have access to the church. Like, what sort of, where's the education, so-called enlightenment and literature and Western religion? What is it doing?
The only satisfaction that you can have that I am not part of a religion which advocates discriminations. Christianity does not advocate discrimination, but Christians advocate discriminations, and Indian Christians, because you have Indian Christians who live as a Hindu all their life. He may be expert in the Bible, he may be wearing a nice coat, probably he may be quoting from page by page from the Bible, but at the core of his heart he is a Hindu, and that is why this is happening here. I know even in UK, for example, people converted Sikhism. The huge population in London demonstrated against the upper caste Sikh, upper caste Sikh, lower caste Sikh, Ravidas is Sikh and the Guru Sikh. They are fighting. Because, and that is why I say caste is a mental disease in my opinion. Once you are born in that, you are groomed, then you become a mentally sick fellow. You can't give up. And I tell you, there are in village area, it is really a disease, because the moment you see a so-called lower caste, that fellow runs away. He is really afraid of facing the person, because he thinks that something day is going to be very bad. I have seen a Dalit, so my day is gone. And they sincerely feel. So it is a disease. In fact, we had a talk with one psychiatrist here. How do you help them to get out? Why this fellow is so much afraid of facing a Dalit? What is wrong with him? We have to go in all those lines. If you are very objective, then we have no, I will not call it as anything religion. It is a disease. Somebody who is educated, foreign written, UK educated, American educated, even then he is afraid of this means what he means. It is a disease, definitely. It is a delusion.
So to return to the first question, what would a pedagogy of the oppressor look like?
That is a very,
how do you do it?
very difficult question. First of all, convincing them to say that yes, you have a problem. There itself, it's a big challenge. In fact, in the UCL, there is one professor, Sushruth, is done one small project in Pune city on a similar line. Then I had written one paper on the same thing, mental illness something, and he got hold of that paper and he contacted me. That's people don't want to accept. First of all, it is like some mentally some schizophrenic person. If you go, you have a problem. Do you think it is easy? Somebody who is schizophrenic, if you go, you have a problem, you have to take it, but nobody will accept. And even otherwise, nobody wants to accept their own fault. But in a situation like this, it's very difficult. But I don't know, I think that is some educationist, probably Batra will work on it and find ways. It's a challenge, definitely. But I tell you, see, maybe kind of a Ashoka, the King Ashoka, After massacring thousands of people, suddenly he turned against. My God, what a blunder I have come, seeing that thousands of people slaughtered, and then he turned towards Buddhism. Maybe a kind of a situation should be created to make them realize, no, you have been a criminal in your attitude all these years and you have to change. It is like a philanthropy. There are Tatas and Birlas, they make a lot of money, but they also contribute to the philanthropy. They realize, okay, I have accumulated more than enough, let me go and give back. Maybe we can start with such people to begin with. It's a challenge, definitely. But the very fact that we recognize this in itself is a first move, but we have a long way to go. I have no answer. Okay? Anyone? Yes, please.
Thanks very much. One of the forms of violence that you identified and spoke about was the denial of right to academic independence.
Yeah.
And these days it's not hard to find Dalit intellectuals and entrepreneurs who make a case for the liberalised economy and the expanding private sector as being caste blind. Then on the other hand, usually those who benefited from it, I think. Then on the other hand, there's a very interesting recent book with OUP India called Blocked by Caste, which contains a study where 5,000 applications are sent to multinational corporations based in Delhi, where those with half be having caste names, and half having lower caste names, and of course with equal qualifications, and there's a far higher pullback for those with upper caste names. So, in the light of that, what do you see the effects of economic liberalisation on the process?
That book by Professor Thorat, it only reinforces, reiterates what you have been talking about, that the caste prejudice in private sector is so much there. But I tell you, there are companies which have come forward with all their prejudice intact. I mean, personally speaking, yes, they have their own prejudice. But they say that affirmative action is okay, where we come voluntarily and help people, but don't make it a reservation policy by which makes it a compulsion to recruit people. So you leave it to us, we will definitely recruit people. So some companies have taken a lead. For example, Tatas have taken a lead, and they started training individuals from these communities. They started recruiting people. So things are happening. We have no way. It's like beggars have no choice. It's that kind of a situation you have. But there are companies which have shown some positive sign, and they are doing it. So you have left with, and most of these Indian companies are privatized. So the scope of reservation is very, very narrow, skewed now. There is hardly, academic institutions are left and few public sectors are left, but otherwise it's completely gone. But we always talk about anything you talk about reservation, as if the whole issue is only reservation. So we hope, and that is why, in fact, I was part of something in Stuttgart. There was a seminar on a similar line, the same question. The one German company who have a company in somewhere in Bangalore, I asked this question, can you bring them here? And he narrated one experience which was difficult to believe, but I don't doubt him. He said that there were laborers working in the garden, and there was a canteen for the officers. It was too hot, and I told them to go and have tea and tiffin there. They went, and all the laborers protested. The senior officer protested, why do you allow these fellows to come into the canteen? You start something else. In that situation, how I can recruit them? These kind of questions. Though the private sector has its own prejudice, definitely, because ultimately they also come under the same prejudice that the people from this background may not be very efficient, and recruiting them will bring down my productivity. So they get passed on to other countries as well. So I can't, because the first person to go out of India, again from the same upper caste, so, and they carry their notion and they pass on the same notion. So they become the first person to teach about India, what India, who are the people. So again another set of struggle, how to educate the foreign companies. No, it is not like that. Relax, you will get your share. They are not thief as you have been predicting. I mean, this is another set of struggle one has to go. It's that's why I said that as the Hindus move out, caste will become a global phenomenon. In the 50s he wrote, and it has become a phenomenon now, and it will be like that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? And just maybe one last question to finish off. You started with all the Hindu scriptures, as it were, and all the, if you do this, you'll be punished in this way. How relevant is that to contemporary caste violence, given that, as you said, most of the people committing caste violence are actually the Shudras who are talked about in the Vedic scriptures? Is it caste the same? Is caste violence today the same as it was in the past, or are we talking about different dynamics?
I see, since I have gone again number of times those scriptural versions, you see the same thing being practiced today. Probably it is, Manu would not have thought on those lines. We have further advanced, because Manu would, nowhere it is written you should force somebody to eat shit. But we have done that. We are far advanced than Manu. So these kind of practices are there, and I don't see, unfortunately, many people would not have read it. But it is possible, we still believe in oral tradition, we pass on. And that is why caste has become our core personality. So the moment you see somebody, first thing that comes to your mind, what caste, where he coming from, the whole thing, that antenna moves on. Till you find a person, the caste of the person, you can't be at peace. So I say, it's still, that's what Ambedkar says, Manu is a living monster. It's not somebody dead in the past. It is living monster. But it's not in the name of Manusmriti, but it has gone so deep in. Now, what probably that head priest, that video is not there, is saying that I believe in this. I believe in caste rules. Jat Vat Mane Wala Hu. Constitution Parme Jao. This is the statement he is making before a camera in public place. And head priest at the top level. At least you will not, at least for the sake, Christian priest will not come and say this. Christian priest, all said and done, whatever limitations you may have among denominations, but they will not say that Jesus discriminates people. No. But our gods discriminate. That is a problem. So that way, conversion to some extent, they have the satisfaction, okay, I am not part of that religion which says I am bad.
Okay, we can continue discussions in a more convivial environment. I think we'll retire to a pub somewhere, but if you can join me once more in thanking Professor Ramaiah for...
Thank you so much. Lovely questions. Thank you. And I hope you undertake some research on these issues in future. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure. Yeah. Good you came. Yeah.